let's just pop into it, and the stragglers can come in as they want to. Reminder: who am I? Why should you care? Running BizNexus. That's our platform for broker deal flow, right? So if you're looking to buy a business, or if you're an intermediary, you get on the platform either to add your listings and get matched with buyers as an intermediary, get matched with sellers as an intermediary, or if you're a buyer, you want to get matched with brokers to help you with your buy side deal flow and with the broker deals, which we have a lot of on the platform, and significantly more than just a month ago before I dropped off the map here. I also run our agency. We offer concierge services for deal origination through BizNexus. That's our agency, BN.Digital, and that's everything that we talk about here on these Lunch and Learns. So we really started out focusing on social selling, right? That's how this all came to pass with the Lunch and Learn. I did, the IBBA had an event planned when the pandemic hit, and they were going to cancel it. And I replied pretty quickly saying, hey, if you want to do a virtual event, I'm in. And heard back, I think that same day, sounds great. Let's check out, what else we can get. Next thing you know, we had this virtual event with the IBBA. I did my LinkedIn social selling presentation, and there was demand for that. So we stayed with it. And actually being away for this past month has been a blessing in disguise, I think, for me, because you get to step away and you have that 30,000 feet vantage point, right? When you move yourself from the day-to-day, you can just take a step back and look at where you are with all this. I think it's been a really good year for the Lunch and Learn. We've had a lot of traction with it. Hopefully we'll keep that traction despite this little Zoom hiccup with the calendar scheduling. But it's been nice to take a step back and look at where we want to go with this thing over the next year, right? LinkedIn in particular, this started with LinkedIn, but social selling is not limited to LinkedIn, right? It doesn't matter what platform you're on. These things are going to change over time. The niche platforms are going to continue to pop up. The social selling process is what we're trying to teach here, really engaging everything online to manage your deal flow at the top of the funnel, especially with your outreach and with your content marketing, and with familiarizing with your end target prospects and your referral prospects with who you are, with what you do, so that you can start to develop that relationship as they become more familiar with how your value prop is directly relevant to them. That's how we started all of this. And we're going to stay focused on, LinkedIn is the only B2B platform of its kind. You have to be on it. It's changed a lot during COVID, some for the better, some for the worse, right? And we'll be covering that. But we are going to continue to evolve, right? This is digital marketing, so you got to stay on the front edge. And we're going to be showing you probably more sophisticated content this year than what we started out with. And I feel like we've all kind of grown over the course of a year in terms of our level of sophistication with social selling and what people are out there doing, and quite frankly, what the competition is doing. What a lot of the people, it's gotten noisy, right? And everybody's trying to copy everybody. So we're going to stay focused on what's actually yielding value. We want these things to be valuable. I've said since day one, if it's not valuable, we'll stop doing it. I don't need to spend my time on it. You don't need to spend your time on it if we're not getting real value. So we're going to focus on the takeaway value. Some of the updates that you're going to be seeing are going to be in the forms of playbooks, of action plans, of implementation. We're really going to focus on that, and hopefully that will continue to yield results. So excited to be back and excited to get back into it. The updates the big updates from the past month, we've scaled up at BizNexus. We've got a lot of new faces. So if you're a client, I'm sure you've already seen some of them. You'll continue to see that. We did a lot of internal changes that we've been working on for a very long time. And so with our agency, with outreach, everything is multi-channel, right? So you'll see CRM management, reply management. You'll have an active account manager who's doing your scheduling for anything. With outreach, it's really an end-to-end service with end-to-end integrations. That's been a big development over the past month. And then with our marketing and sales automation, we've had Q2 scheduled for a lot of our onboarding. That's been happening. Really exciting, especially considering everything that's happened with the world transitioning online over the past year. BizNexus, if you're engaged with that, you probably noticed that we had the first release of the 2-part series we've been talking about for a long time now. So if you're an intermediary and you add a deal, you'll see suggested buyers, you'll see suggested fundless sponsors and funded sponsors and buyout groups who are specifically focused on your type of deal and your type of area when you add that. So you can just feel free to reach out. And you'll also see more options for boosted listings, boosted listing campaigns, buy-side campaigns, everything. We also have a boatload of new inventory. So if you're a buyer, you haven't been on the platform in a while, get back in there, check it out. You will have to be approved to get on the platform. That's been a change as well, because we're trying to combat the ocean of bots who continue to get on the platform and try to scrape it and do everything else. So we put protections in for that. So I think the end result is a more valuable community. So social selling, getting back to the basics. What do we talk about in these lunch and learns? Again, it's the long game of deal origination. Whether you're trying to buy a business, one business to own and operate, or whether you're a family office or private equity group and you're buying multiple portfolio companies with add-on acquisitions, or if you're an intermediary and you just want to get in front of multiple businesses that should be in a position to sell, right? If you're targeting a specific geographic area or a specific niche, that's what our process is. And we've applied social selling to this process. I think we're safe to say one of the first to really focus on this. And it's a great process for developing your ocean of end target prospects and referral prospects in the short term, but staying in front of them over the long term and continuing to nurture them down the funnel, right? And whether you like the term funnel or not, that is a great analogy for the different stages of the conversation, where you start with, I like the conference analogy, right? You have a chat about the industry. You're not chatting about yourself. You're talking about the ins and outs of the industry. And then you're letting your prospect know a little bit about what you do and how that fits their needs, and vice versa. And then you get to the point where you're actually exchanging a business card, and you agree that there's enough overlap there where maybe not now, but at some point it makes sense for us to connect. And then we get to that proverbial cup of coffee, which, it's been a month here, so my slides might be a little jumbled up, but looks like the team did not put the cup of coffee slide in here. So hiccups, guys, gotta shake off the rust. It's been a while. Bear with me. But the end goal of all of this is to get the proverbial cup of coffee, right? Typically we have a slide here where you have that cup of coffee, whether that is actually sitting down on a table with your end target prospect to talk about a potential engagement, or whether it's a phone call or a Zoom meeting in this environment. The goal of all this is to really build up a system for targeting and staying in front of your prospects to the point where you get that proverbial cup of coffee, you get that sit down, and you can transition a marketing qualified lead over to a sales qualified lead. And then you put on your sales hat, you do everything you do to nurture a real world relationship to the point of an engagement. And that's on you, right? A few months ago, we really started doing the monthly series. We got great feedback on that, so we're gonna stick with it. We're really doubling down on that as we move forward. And March was supposed to be really April's series, but we got derailed. And so we're diving into April. We're talking about all things referral prospects, right? So how to leverage referral prospects for deal origination. There are bound to be people who are doing this already, who are in the lunch and learn. And then I know there are first timers, people who have not used referral prospects for deal origination. I think there's some fundless sponsors in here. I can see you on the webinar. So we've got to find the happy medium between the experts, the novices who are in these lunch and learns. So at the end of the lunch and learn, you will get an email about feedback, what was valuable, what isn't valuable. Again, guys, as we ramp this back up, and since I've been away for a while, if you wouldn't mind just filling that out so we can really try to keep these things valuable. We want to give you the info that's going to matter for you, so that you can walk away from these things feeling like you're better having spent the time in the lunch and learn, and you wouldn't have been better to spend it somewhere else. So today we're going to run through types of referral prospects and the events that are working, not just webinars, but what's the intent of your event, right? Next week, we're going to go into the actual campaigns. So running referral campaigns, like what does a referral marketing campaign look? And then what does a referral sales campaign look? look like, right? So what does that outreach look like? And then what does the nurturing look like? What are the tips and tactics for researching your prospects through your referral networks, right? So we'll really do some case studies there. We'll walk you through some examples of how to manage your referral prospects once you've made first contact and you've established that there's a clear overlap. When you're nurturing those prospects, how do you continue to get value from those prospects on an ongoing basis? We're going to really dig into that next week, and that will probably spill over a bit into the following week, or it may go long next week. We'll see. But week 3, we're really trying to focus on case studies, right? Referral incentive plans that are working for intermediaries, that are working for funds, right? For this, we're really kind of focusing on the family offices, the private equity groups, the intermediaries, the people who are in this for multiple referrals on an ongoing basis, not the one-time acquirer who's just looking to buy a job, or for a search fund or something like that, where you're just looking to make one acquisition and then transition over into an operational role. Finally, we'll close out with playbook, examples, case studies. That's going to be something that you see every month. Really, the final wrap up will always have a giveaway playbook going forward and case studies. So we're excited about the new format. Hopefully you are too. Let us know if you're not, and we'll try to tweak it if we can. So referral prospecting. Why? Who cares? In this industry, over time, this is, if you've been on these lunch and learns, you've heard me say this multiple times. Your referral prospects over time will be more valuable than any proprietary deal origination strategy that you have in place, right? So if you came and hired an agency like ours and we just nailed it, we fixed your online brand, and we nailed your targeting, and we nailed your copy, and we approached the prospects at the top of the funnel and nurtured them from mid to bottom of the funnel. If we had the best process in the world in place, over time, if you get valuable referral prospects, that's still going to be more valuable, in my opinion. And I'm selling you out of my agency there, right? So what I'm saying is not actually working in my favor as an agency owner. If you can develop the referral prospects and develop those really high yield relationships over time, that's why you see a lot of these brokers in the IBBA, especially. You'll see people who don't do anything. They just sit back on referral prospects. And some of the top earners in this industry, whether you're talking about Main Street, lower market, middle market, they're leaning on referral prospects for deal flow. And so this is an industry where people who are leading the industry in terms of deal flow are leveraging referral relationships, but oftentimes they don't actually have a system in place to develop and nurture ongoing referral prospects, which is crazy to me. So good news is there are a few people out there really effectively doing this when it comes to referral targeting programs. And if you do it just like social selling, you're going to stand out from the competition, because this industry is very, very behind. This is the fastest way to fill your pipeline with opportunities. If you're starting out, if you can get just one good referral source, oftentimes that'll keep a young business brokerage alive before you can ramp up your other deal flow sources. When you have a lead, obviously, if it comes to a referral, it's going to be much easier, right? You're not going to have to go out and prove your credentials as much. You're not going to have to show the social proof. You're not going to have as many meetings. There's a trust factor that's involved with referral prospecting, where these leads will close very quickly, because you fast forward to the 10-yard line. That is really referral prospecting in a nutshell. You skip all of the qualification, and you can have a good meeting and there's a fit. You oftentimes will get the engagement if you're an intermediary. And that's in a nutshell why you want to focus on referral prospecting, while we're focusing on that for this month. Where to begin? Before you develop any program, basically the stuff that we're talking about for the next month, think about who you know right now, who's in your network, who do you have some earned trust with, people who want to see you succeed, right? And then think about how you can collaborate, right? Is there a symbiotic relationship from a professional standpoint there? Can you focus on your non-competing referral sources in your network, right? People who target the same end target prospect, right? People who target the business owners, right? So if you are a local business owner or a local business broker, you're focused on one particular geographic market, and there's a great local financial advisor who everybody's going to, well, that's obviously going to be a referral source. You can approach these referral sources top of the funnel. Generally speaking, after a few conversations, you could ask them if they know of anybody who's interested in exit planning, and then ideally you get them into a nurturing program. But what we'll get into next week is how to make the specific ask, where ideally you have an idea of their type of high value prospect or the specific high value prospects in their network, so you can ask for that specific intro. That's something that if you can set this aside as a sales task, it's a much better way to leverage a referral relationship over time. Types of referral prospects, that's what we're going to rifle through today. I'm going to go through financial advisors, accountants, lawyers, commercial insurance, lenders, niche consultants. If there's anything on here that you'd like to see that we're not covering, again, in that feedback form at the end of the Lunch and Learn, please just give me the heads up, and maybe we'll cover it next week. We'll touch on it next week, or we can go through some of it with the case studies and with the Lunch and Learn that's going to be covering financial incentives for these different referral types. So financial advisors, this is a great one, very common. I like financial advisors because they have aligned interests with a business intermediary. What I mean by that is, under the right circumstances, right? Ideally, a financial advisor is always acting in the best interest of their client. Financial advising is just like business brokerage. There are really good financial advisors, and then there are really bad financial advisors. So hopefully you partner up with the types of financial advisors who are going to stack up from a value standpoint and who are going to help your brand, not hurt it. So keep that in mind with any referral prospect. Your brand is on the front line here, so be careful. But with aligned interests, ideally financial advisors get an exit, right? So if they have a business owner client, we know that the majority of business owners have the large majority of their wealth tied up in a liquid asset, i.e. their business. So financial advisors oftentimes will have a set estate planning team in place, or if they're a new financial advisor, they don't have that in place. And therein lies the real opportunity for business brokerage, in my opinion, if you're just starting out a referral prospecting program. You want to get in there ideally with financial advisors who have enough traction where they're not going to flame out. Most financial advisors will flame out within the first 3 years. So if you can find the financial advisors who have good traction and are starting out, they most likely do not have any sort of estate planning team in place unless they're with a bigger shop like a Morgan Stanley or a UBS, et cetera. So if they're with a boutique shop, it's easy to get in, right? It's easier for you to get a meeting, for you to stand out, to present something that maybe they haven't seen. And it's easier to shape the partnership because you can do that work for them, right? Financial advisors are busy, just like business brokers. They're out there trying to build their book. So if you have a set game plan for an alliance, whether that's a quarterly webinar and then a set meeting where you can sit down and talk about the estate planning and how your business sale would factor in to a new portfolio that the financial advisor is going to develop for a business owner post business sale. If you can go in there and spoon feed that to a financial advisor, 99% of them are going to take it, right? They're very, if they don't have something in place, they need to get that in place. And if you can give that to them and you can target the right advisor who isn't with a really big shop where they're going to say, you have to work with our estate planning team, or they're with a senior broker who already has a relationship in place. If you can find that, that's where it really works out, in my opinion, with financial advisors, from what I've seen in the industry over about 20 years at this point. Accountants. So these can be really, really valuable if you can make it work. The problem is a lot of accountants, one problem that I've been hearing from Main Street especially is that accountants want to get into business brokerage, right? So they might not know anything about marketing a business, but they're uniquely positioned to get that engagement. And so a lot of accountants might have some sort of ancillary M&A shop set up, right? Where they can set up an LLC and maybe they do transactions there. Watch out for that. But accountants, ideally an accountant isn't going to operate in their self-interest in this way, but with the business, obviously, if it sells, the accountant has just lost their business, right? So they might be hesitant to talk to a business broker because they'll think a business broker is going to go and try to sell their client to exit, and then the accountant loses that those billed hours. So one way to mitigate that risk is to make sure that you're proactive. If you're approaching accountants, be proactive about offering to introduce them to new buyers, right? So if they have anybody who's thinking about selling, they'll be less hesitant to wall you off as an intermediary to keep you away from their clients, they'll be less hesitant to do that if you can make them feel warm and fuzzy about you can be a lead source for them. You can introduce them to new buyers, right? New buyers of businesses, they'll change their lawyers, they'll change their accountants, they'll change their insurance, right? I think the numbers are over 80% of new business owners will change their insurance policy and provider within the first year of business ownership. Same thing with accountants, right? Accountants, they don't spend much money on marketing. But when there's a new business owner, that's when accountants will get a new client, right? I mean, when do you change accountants? It's when you buy a business or when your current accountant has done something horribly wrong. So if you can be a new lead source for that accountant and you can present to them, hey, I'll bring a stream of new buyers to you as an accountant, there you've got aligned interest, there you've got overlap, and that's something that will hit home with the accountant and they'll start listening. Again, focus on boutiques. That's going to be a recurring theme that I talk about for every type of prospect here. It's just easier, right? Less likely that you'll burn your time, you'll waste your time with someone who already has an established relationship or who won't be able to get into a unique partnership with you because of legal reasons, et cetera, if they're with a larger operation. So again, accountants, if you can get those incentives aligned, if you can make the right approach, you can get them to listen to you and think of you as a lead source, then you've got aligned interests and you're in with somebody who obviously is very well positioned to know when a business owner is thinking about selling, to know when a business owner wants to have the conversation about, well, the accountant's most likely going to take care of the valuation, but in terms of who the buyers are and where buyer interest is and what's actually happening in that acquisition market, the accountant does need the intermediary to step in and be a qualified source on that conversation. Most accountants just have no idea what they're doing when it comes to marketing and setting up a structured competitive bid, for example. Lawyers, depends on what your target is. You can be looking at M&A lawyers, you can be looking at industry specific lawyers, Main Street, maybe you're focused on divorce lawyers, but just know that this is a referral prospect where even though it might be a highly valuable transaction, it's an event-based sale, right? So this isn't like an accountant who is working day in, day out with multiple businesses and they can know exactly when to insert an intermediary into the conversation. Lawyer, they could be working with a lot of businesses, but they're not going to talk to you unless they absolutely need something for something like a divorce, for an event-based sale. So ideally you can get yourself on the roster, again, starting with lawyers who don't already have this relationship in place, but really focusing on people who might be developing as terrible as this sounds, if they're developing a practice based on divorce and they're a couple of years in, then they probably don't have an established relationship with an intermediary, and maybe you can plant that seed and develop a referral partnership with that person. Insurance, aligned interests. Again, they will lose their client in a sale, but if you can introduce them to the new buyer, same thing as the accountant, right? So if you can present yourself as a lead source for insurance, they are aggressively marketing. And this is where it's different than an accountant, because insurance representatives, insurance agents, insurance brokers, they typically spend, right, on marketing. They're spending on sales and marketing. They're out there, they're aggressively pursuing new business. And so that's great. If you can align with someone who's doing that and they're doing it well, then you can piggyback off of that marketing spend. You can piggyback off of that sales expertise, because if you're doing a webinar with that with that persona once a quarter, for example, and you're getting in front of mutually shared end prospects, i.e. the business owners, that's fantastic. We see a lot of intermediaries doing really well with insurance. It's just about how you structure the approach and making sure that they see you as someone who can give back just as much as they can on an ongoing basis. So again, boutiques are great. They're always sniffing around, looking for sales and marketing opportunities. So they'll be more open to conversations than accountants. In my experience, they'll be less protective. So go for that and make sure that you're nurturing those high value prospects on an ongoing basis. We'll get into that part next week. Lenders, clearly aligned interests. I mean, any business intermediary it's one of the first relationships that you'll establish. Just out of necessity, they work with business acquisitions, operations, sale. It's great for buy side leads, right? On an ongoing basis. If you can bring a buy side client to a lender, then they're going to reach out to you. And in my experience, lenders are the ones who you really stay close with on an ongoing basis because they're so interested in what you can bring them. So if you can develop that relationship and have one good trusted relationship with one good regional lender, that's going to pay dividends. So I think most intermediaries set that up day one, but if you haven't, we'll go through how to do that and what those campaigns look like. Now, niche consultants, this varies, right? So with every client, for us, for example, at BN.Digital, this is where we got to really dig in. Who are your niche consultants? Where are they? What pools are they spending time in? How do we get to them? So think about that. Like if you're going to do homework over the next week, who are your niche consultants, right? Who's actively involved with your end target prospect on a daily basis, right? So if you're focused on HVAC, are these HVAC consultants? Are they niche vendors within the world of HVAC? Are they, running some sort of online group on LinkedIn, or do they have, an HVAC seminar or an HVAC magazine? I mean, who are these influencers in your niche, right? And a niche, again, can be your regional area, but you've got to ask yourself, who are the influencers who are targeting your end prospect, the business owners who you want to hit, right? How do you develop this relationship? So make a list, right? Just take a page, put in niche consultants, and start brainstorming about who are the niche consultants outside of the financial advisors, the lawyers, the insurance brokers, the accountants, et cetera. Who are the niche consultants who are probably less defensive on an approach or to an approach, sorry. So, if they're really niche, then they're not going to have as many people approaching them for the type of partnership that you're going to be proposing as a business intermediary or, as someone who's looking to buy a business. So, they can be more receptive. And if you find something that's creative, it will yield value. So those are the types. Final tips. Specialization is something that we work really well. I always talk about going niche. I'm a firm believer in that, especially in the world of business brokerage, for intermediaries and for acquisitions. If you can define yourself as targeting something like HVAC, first of all, people are going to remember you, right? If they come across an HVAC company, they're going to think, okay, there's that HVAC intermediary and we need to refer. It's just staying top of mind is much easier if you have a specialization that your end prospect can remember, right? Can keep top of mind. With referral prospects, we'll get into this next week, but you really want to focus on building trust, right? Adding value. No salesy pitches. You want to establish your value proposition in whatever campaign you have, but you really want to build credibility, build trust, and stay in touch. So, automated tasks at the top of the funnel. So you can have automated outreach. You can have, an automated monthly white paper or newsletter that goes out focused on that exact type of referral prospect. But when, it comes to making a call every quarter, that should be an automated sales task that is a personalized task for implementation, right? You should be getting on the phone and you should be making the call and you should be putting on your sales hat and finding that overlap. We'll get into that more next week. So other tips, we've gone through that. Make sure tip number 3, identify non-competing referral partners with your shared end target prospect. Again, just think about it for the next week. Who's going after your end target prospect? How can you approach them? How can you align them? If you have specific questions, ask me next week or in the survey after this. You can ask me, set up a time. I'm always happy to chat if you want to brainstorm about referral prospects or who your niche consultants might be. That's something that we're doing day in and day out. So happy to chat. And the big one that we do not see enough of is having a proactive thank you policy, right? So thank you refer, whether you get an engagement or not, making sure that you're showing appreciation, either by saying thank you or by having some sort of formal bottle of champagne sent if you have an engagement that goes through. Very important, and that's going to lead to more referrals, obviously. So something that we're going to be including on the Lunch and Learns, kind of a teaser for next week. So when we talk about event types, not just webinar versus live events, think about this with your referral prospects. You can do something like a webinar, which we see a ton of, especially during this COVID environment. You can create a webinar that's targeting your referral, that's targeting your end target prospect, right? So if you're teaming up with a financial advisor to target business owners and just talk about how you work together, sure, that's valuable, right? But everybody's doing it. But if you're really going to lean into this month and you're going to lean into developing referral campaigns in a referral program, think about what webinar you could actually do with your referral, like for your referral prospect, for the benefit of your referral prospect. So if you've had one successful transaction done with an FA, for example, with a financial advisor, could you do a webinar with that financial advisor? And even if you don't have one attendee to that webinar, right, it shows proof of concept, not proof of concept, sorry. It's been away for a month, guys. Social proof. It shows that you have successfully done this with a financial advisor. It shows the financial advisor who's happy because they received their bottle of champagne, or it was a job well done. Whatever it is, you can create an outreach campaign that relies on that webinar to approach other referral prospects. So, for example, if I have a webinar with a financial advisor about a successful estate planning venture with one of their clients, and how their business owner client went through the process of estate planning and sold their company with a business broker, and then they got a pile of money and that got invested into a portfolio, and the stock market did well, and everyone's happy. If you do a webinar like that, and then you can put that into a campaign where you have the type of campaign that we're going through on a weekly basis with a lunch and learn, an intro, you state your value proposition, then you offer a link to the webinar or a link to the case study, and then you nurture them. That's going to put you ahead of the pack, right? Especially since so few intermediaries are doing referral prospecting in a structured way. If you do it and you have something to show, you're really going to do well. And it's something that we see work really well in other industries, and just very few people are doing it in the world of business acquisition and sale. So we'll dig into that more, guys. Great to be back. Please let us know. Really, we want to keep these valuable. That's not a line. Please give us feedback, right? We want to dig into what will be good for you guys, what's going to have value. It's not worth doing it if we don't get the feedback. So let's all try. If you take the time to attend, take 2 seconds. I think you have to answer 2 questions in the survey. Let me know what works. Let me know what doesn't, so we can continue to improve. Thanks, guys. Great to be back, and see you all next week.